Felipe, what else other than meditation and reading? Have you got any other things that, even if it's things that you say to yourself or how you approach certain negative situations or challenges?
Uh, I think I'm a very introspective person. I'm
Mm,
also a bit of an overthinker, so sometimes that doesn't help me. But I think looking meditation actually to kind of like reiterate what you guys said helped me a lot into looking into myself, deep into myself, my flaws, the things that I can work on. I'm someone that I need a lot of external validation from people, and I tend to be a codependent person in a relationship or in other areas of my life. So I have a need to please people, and sometimes uh, coming to self love, putting myself before someone else, even when the situation is damaging to me. So meditation, reading, listening to podcasts has allowed me to tackle or to minimize the effect of those issues in my life. So it's a constant battle. It's one of the flaws I have in my personality, but it's about working. It's about seeing it as a challenge. And when I see things like that, I feel happy that the world is somehow throwing me that stuff, and it's allowing me to shed the old me so that I can become a new improved person. So I like challenges. I see challenges as a way to grow, to become better. Um, in some ways, you can kind of imagine yourself as a warrior, and every challenge that you face, you have the chance to be a badass and tackle that the best way possible, positive, being strong, uh, and yeah, I think trying to get as much information as possible, look into yourself, look on how you treat people. What are some of the things that are stopping you from reaching your goals? Have you had any trauma as a kid in a way that have you been bullied? Look into that. Try to work on that yourself. If you need to get help, get help. But just pushing away that sort of stuff is gonna damage you, not only with regards to your relationship with other people, your career, but you're not going to be able to fulfill your true potential as a human. So working on that, I think, is fundamental for you to become a better human, to become a better partner, to become a better friend, and to actually live a better life. Once you get rid of those things that stop you, the amount of freedom you feel is tremendous. And I think that's the most important thing is self-love. I think before loving anyone else, you gotta love yourself, and to do that, you gotta unfortunately face the demons that haunt you, that prevent you from becoming that person that you want to be, or for from like sometimes people make excuses as to they why they cannot follow diets, and they say, oh yeah, but I need to go out to a dinner, I need to go out drinking. And as you said, really, that is just people escaping from the fact that sometimes life is hard and it's not always going to be pleasant to reject that drink, or to reject that night out because you gotta sleep, or you may think, oh, I'm gonna upset a friend, but in reality, you need to think about yourself. Like, is that doing good to me? If yes, then you gotta think, okay, that's the right decision for me. I need to do that and apologize, obviously, but go with your gut instinct and go with the fact that if you want to become a better human being, sometimes you're gonna have to change the way you live. And I think that's the thing. You have to find a new lifestyle. You have to find a new way of life that kind of fits in with your old one in some ways. So you don't have to get rid of all your friends, but you do have to be strong enough, and I think have enough of a self love for yourself to say, no, you know what? I think the best thing I can do right now is stay home, hang out with my partner, or study or read or meditate, and maybe we catch up later. And having that self love and creating boundaries uh, around the people that surround you, so that when you do have to do something for yourself, they understand and you feel better if you do that. You feel like you're loving yourself, and they will respect you as well for that, because people with no boundaries, they don't get respected, because if you don't have boundaries, uh, people feel like they can do whatever they want to you. So I think it's important to have boundaries, love yourself, go deep into the things that affect your psyche, because they'll they'll eventually take a toll in your body. Everything that affects your mind will eventually manifest itself in your body in ways that most likely will not lead to positive results. So I think it's really important to dive deep into yourself, being an introspective person, and try to improve yourself in every area, every respect of your life.
So, Philippe, you mentioned just briefly in that section where you said that you see everything now, or the challenges, as an opportunity to grow. And you seem very positive about that. You seem like those challenges are welcome. I've got two questions. The first one is, did you always see things like that? Is that something you've had forever? And the second one is, off the back of that, if it's not, then when did it change, and maybe what made it change?
Uh, so I think part of it is a personality thing. I think I'm a perfectionist, and I try to do everything the best I can. But I think as a kid, I started as a footballer. I started playing football when I was 7, and I played up to a high level back in Brazil until I was 18. After that, I had to move to England and start my life all over again. And I moved there first with my dad, and we had to work in order to bring my mom and brother. So we had to face a lot of challenges in moving to a different country, uh, learning to speak a different language. And throughout my life in England, I had to face a lot of challenges. And when I first got to England, I did not have my friends. I did not have anyone. So I resort a lot to introspection, to reading, to gathering information, to try and see that as a way to become better. And I think that came primarily from my need and my want to become the best version of myself, to become someone that I'm proud of being. And I see challenges in the same way as I see going to the gym. Like, you go to the gym and you train with heavier loads, or you do more reps so that you can become better. And in my training and in my life, that's the way I see it. I see challenges in that way. And that started because of football, and it continued throughout the time uh, with the challenges that life threw at me. I mean, going to university in Exeter, speaking English well, but still being a second language, it's something that is not easy. So the amount of effort I had to put was, for most people, unimaginable. I used to study about 10 hours a day, every day, for the three years I was at uni, and that was from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. Uh,
Can
Jack, do you
can
want?
I interject with a story here?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh dear.
One of my absolute, because Philippe's shaped my character in a lot of ways, and he knows this, and he's been a hugely influential big brother to me throughout my, I mean, last maybe what, 6, 7 years since we've known each other
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
And one of the kind of earth-shattering moments that I had was that at Exeter, where all three of us went to university, Wednesdays in particular used to be like sports days generally, right? So the football teams would play their games, rugby teams, girls hockey, all that sort of stuff. And so they tried to always put minimal amounts of lectures and kind of work time on those days for the people who went to play sport. And generally, even the people who didn't play sport would take those as a day off, right? Everyone would be out at Cheesy Tuesdays the night before, hungover on the Wednesday.
Shout out Cheesy Tuesdays.
And then on the Wednesday, you'd be eating hangover food, recovering, and getting ready to go out at TP on the Wednesday. And that would be most people's kind of Wednesday setup. I wasn't like fully in with that crowd. I wanted, in a similar way to Felipe, to really crack on at uni, and I was a hard worker by many, many people's standards. But I remember one Wednesday, Felipe and I arranged to meet up and get together, and I went round his place, the place where him and his brother lived. And we were talking about it and saying, how much study do you tend to do like outside of uni, and, how much you really doing? And he was like, I do 10 hours or so, maybe 12 if I can. I study before lectures and I go to lectures, I train, I study again when I get home. Apart from Wednesdays, like Wednesdays are my good day where I get in like 12, 14 hours. And I was like, what? Like it was alien to me. It was alien to me that on a day where everyone else was having it off, and I maybe put in a mediocre half day or something on a Wednesday thinking I was hot shit, that someone out there could be working twice as much as me. And he was putting in 12, 14 hours on a Wednesday, which was like God's day at university. Like no one else was doing anything. It was a day of rest. And it just blew my mind. And it was one of those like perspective shattering moments where I was like, okay, this dude's working. Like he is putting it in. And if someone else is out there working like that and they can do it, quite a lot like you said about books as well, Philippe, like if people are getting this perspective from other people and seeing what other people are going through, it helps you relate it to you. And in seeing you doing that, for me, it was like, oh shit, I can turn it up a notch. Like I can go harder. I can do what this guy's doing, because, I knew how well you were doing at university and how intelligent you were and how well read you were because of the effort you were putting in. And then also kind of counterbalancing that with the fact that you were doing it in your second language. I was like, man, there is no excuse for me not to get a first and not to absolutely smash it if that is what this guy's doing, and that is, I mean, that's just inspiration in a quintessential kind of sense. But it really does show you that if you can see what other people are doing, you can get that perspective, it can open up a fully new realm to you that you didn't even know was particularly an option. And that's where things like those books can come in, like you mentioned. For me, that's come in through key people, yourself included, throughout my life, and reading and things like that as well. And yeah, just to give people a bit of an idea of just how much of a grafter you are. I don't know a day where you stopped in uni and you absolutely got crazy good results for that and performed really well. And I think that also ties into what you said about things like self-love as well, and doing what you know to be right. Self-love isn't always being horizontal for 12 hours and feeding yourself 15,000 calories. It can also be actually having the respect for yourself and the self-love for yourself to say, long term, this is the right thing for me to do. I am doing the right thing for future me, and I am honoring my potential and I'm honoring myself. And it's a different sort of take on self-love, because I think it often gets banded about just in the way of relaxation or taking time off or whatever. And there's definitely times to blow off steam and all that stuff, for sure. But if you have a set goal in mind, there will be finite periods of your life where you have to go hard at that goal. And that requires you having the discipline and the self-love to respect yourself enough to put that effort in to do what's required.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you, Jack. Thank you for the shout and for the story. It's glad to. I'm really glad to know that I was an inspiration to you. You know that you're an inspiration to me as well. How you handle yourself and everything. We've been friends for a while, and even whilst you were in America, we kept in touch throughout our university years. We always kept in touch, and we've always had similar interests. And I think our search for becoming better individuals and learning and kind of breaking the norm of what a man is today in society. So I think we try to step out of that sort of role that people perceive as being the macho guy that doesn't talk about their feelings, that doesn't share, that is not vulnerable. That I think that's an old model of our reality. And I think sharing and knowing that you have people similar to you that can hear something, take that on board, and make, if you want, an intelligent and kind of like, how can I can give you an intelligent perspective of how to tackle a situation. It's really important. And coming back to the challenge situation, uh, I think a guy that has influenced me recently is Aubrey Marcus. Is a guy I've been listening to a lot. He is a guy that has a very unusual way of living. Obviously, I don't agree with every sort of thing that he does in life, but I think he has a lot of points that make sense. And for instance, tackling your life as if you were a warrior, and seeing challenges as a way to become better. That's a motto I'm trying to live by. Because you can either feel pity for yourself when you're in a bad place and you can stuff your face with Ben and Jerry's, or you can go and drink yourself silly, or you can just grab the fucking life by the balls and just say, no, I'm gonna take you head on, and I'm gonna face that thing as a man or as a woman, and I'm gonna do the best I can. And I think that's one thing I've learned is, if you do your best and you know that you put the best effort into that scenario, into that task, then if you fail, you won't feel regret. You won't feel like you failed. You feel like, okay, I did my best. At uni, studying the amount of time I was studying, I went to exams knowing that if I failed, it wasn't because I didn't put the work. It was because something else. So I think work speaks for itself. If you do put in the time, whether in the gym, whether at work, whether in a relationship, you're gonna get positive results. If you're not getting positive results, then the other way to see things is, it's not meant to be. It was a challenge, it was a life experience. It will definitely allow you to grow, but that which you haven't been able to succeed or to keep a relationship going or a career, that's not meant to be for you. And maybe you should look to that as a positive. So what else can I do? Can I do something else? Do I enjoy something else? Can I look for another person? Or and just comes back to self love, loving yourself, doing the best you can, loving yourself, and knowing that what you did was all you could have done. I think that's what I try to do. Uh, leave nothing in the
That
tank.
I think that is such an important point to underscore about, yes, putting in everything that you've got and kind of washing your hands potentially of the result. Because if you actually gave it all that you can, then you know that you've done everything possible. But also bringing that back round to, as you say, self-love, understanding things happen the way they did, and the outcome actually couldn't have been any other way, in that it happened how it did. You can't go back and change that past. And spending time thinking about that, lambasting yourself for it, and being down in the dumps thinking that you're then going to live that out in the future again because of something that happened in the past, is such a waste of energy and such a waste of time. You have to accept that things happened as they did. That is okay because it has happened. And that doesn't mean that you don't have preferences. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't rather, in your head think that it went another way, or you would rather have a different future. I understand that there are preferences and there's always going to be things that you want. We have goals, right? And we shoot towards them. But really having that self-love and compassion for yourself and kindness to yourself, that if it works out another way, as long as you know you did what you can, then everything is fine. Everything is good. And you will still feel good about yourself and understand that you were genuinely doing all you can. I think the only times where I have been the kind of most down and most depressed is when I knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I knew that the right thing would have been to act in a different way. I know that I should have spoken to someone differently or treated a partner differently or, made a different decision. But there was something clouding my decisions in that time. And we could go down that route of mental health and depression and everything as well if you guys want to. But there's, you're not making the right decision. And that's the time where you feel bad within yourself.
Yeah.
And,
I always say to people that we have great control over the input, but we have next to no control over the output. So we have, this happens a lot when I think of people who maybe in their check-ins complain about their partner or will say that I can't do this because of that. And coming back full circle to what you said, Felipe, you put in every ounce of input possible. That if they threw a question into that exam paper, which had nothing to do with anything had studied, nothing to do with anything that you had read, and it was just a massive curveball by them, you can't control that output. And one of the examples I was saying yesterday to somebody who was complaining about a partner, I said, look, you can do everything that you can, and that input is entirely up to you. But if they turn around and say, look, we've both tried and this doesn't work out for us anymore, you have no control over that output. That output has nothing to do with you. And something that I found that to be very true for myself was, Jack mentioned on a previous podcast, I played a high level of rugby, just like with you in football. I worked my entire life to do that. So when I got my letter to say that I've been selected to play for England, I was over the moon, don't get me wrong, but I had lived every minute in order to achieve that. So when I got that, and I hope this doesn't come across as me being arrogant or anything like that, but the input that I had given to do that meant that if I didn't get that, then there was nothing I could do, but I sure as hell couldn't give anything more. So my input was 100% and the output was out of my hands. So when I got that letter, I was kind of like, I deserve this because I know I did everything I needed to do to get it. And if the decision didn't go my way, the output has nothing to do with me. And I would have been sad, of course, but I'd have tried again. It wouldn't have been something I sat down on and was like, that's a shame. And the interesting thing I see in a lot of people is that they aren't honest about the input that they have given in. And then they get really butthurt by the output that they receive.
Yeah.
And Jack, we've had countless conversations about clients and our approaches to managing them in situations where we think they're possibly being unrealistic with their account of input and how we get the most out of them. And then it's finding a way to manage those situations that you make people have more self kind of in look to say, actually, do you know what? I didn't give it my all, but this is why. And I received an email from someone yesterday, and it was absolute breath of fresh air. They literally said, "Look, this is why I didn't achieve what we said that we were going to do at this point. I did this, and this, and this is what I'm going to do to change it." I literally sat back and started clapping. I was just like, "This is it. This is exactly it. This is." Looking at the input that you did, saying I didn't input 100%, the output that I received was solely down to the points that I know about, because quite frankly, I didn't do what we agreed that I would do. And I was just like, well, you can coach yourself now. This is done.
Yeah, and I think that comes back around to something you were talking about, Philippe, with, everything we've said here depends on a certain level of accountability. And Philippe, you said you've got that through things like meditation, through being introspective. All three of us are like deep thinkers when it comes to, like, if anything, overanalyzing situations. I think a lot more people could generally do with some sort of practice that allows them to be introspective and to really actually work out where they're going wrong. And that doesn't have to just be meditation. There's a reason that if you think of all these things that are kind of popular at the moment, all these things that people are speaking about, whether that's journaling, whether that's gratitude, whether that's meditation, whether that's having quiet time whilst exercising, whatever it is that people are kind of recommending. And this gets spun in a myriad of different ways, right? There's 100 different techniques of the 5-minute journal, this technique, that technique from different people. The important thing is just that you have something, whatever the flavor is for you, have something that you can go to that you're comfortable with. If you're a great writer or you enjoy writing, do it as a journal. If you're someone who likes talking these things out, have a friend like I have in Felipe who I can call up and get a therapy session with and just put the world to rights.
Same
Right?
back at you,
If
man.
you have again a propensity to do it in a kind of voice kind of way, record yourself with voice notes, talk it out, have things that you hold yourself accountable with. Like a client I used to work with did something that I really liked, and that when she was super motivated, when she was feeling her best, she used to record a voice note for herself, kind of telling herself that, like, future self. And when she was then feeling down, she'd go back to that voice note and she'd listen into it, and it would like G her up again. It would motivate her again because she got that kind of that like inspired self, that time where she was doing better, and she could get back into that kind of state. Whatever that flavor is for you, however you want to do it, I think it's important that you just have something, and it doesn't have to be the exact sort of one from any specific guru. We're not going to tell you to do it in any type of way, but have a way that you keep yourself accountable to your actions in a way that you can then take further action from that and keep propelling yourself forwards.
100%. It's important more than anything to be able to keep moving forward. I think as human beings, we thrive on the ability to maintain a constant flow of something, whether that's work progression or, in fact, that's a really good one to talk about, progression in job. I think a lot of people become satisfied with the position they're in based on the fact that they don't want to put themselves out there to progress. And I think all three of us will agree that the ability to be able to want to fail, meaning, you're willing to do so in order to achieve that, means that you keep moving forward. And I think if you really want to show self-love and you really want to be able to put yourself out there for something that you deserve to do, then it starts with that. Because if you don't apply for that job, which you may or may not get, or you don't apply to the scholarship, or you don't, Philippe, you said you spent hours and hours learning English. You could have spent half of those hours and still spoke relatively good English. You speak fantastic English.
Thank you.
But would that have given you the fulfillment and the capabilities to live to the way that you wanted to live? Probably not, knowing you as I do. And therefore, you have to be willing to put yourself out there with regard to your future self, to say, I will do whatever I can now to make me in 6 months happy for the person I was here because of where I'll be then. And without doing that, I feel like that's where people have their shortcomings, when they go, fuck, I really did miss that. And there's times in my life where I look back and go, I regret not being in a better place there. But can I do anything about that? Absolutely not. I can't wind back time. And you know what? Given the choice, I wouldn't do it either. I wouldn't turn back time and change it, because the lessons I learned, either through horrendous mental health, through complete neglection of myself, have helped me now to help other people more than any other life experience could, And that, I think, is where doing the job we do, or educating people in a manner outside of just doing a podcast where we could have spoke about how effective it is to do 4 sets of 12 or eating vegetables. Whilst they're all great things to do, they're all things that people can look into and know. But looking deeper, like we are here, I think is something that people will either have switched off maybe half an hour ago because they maybe don't want to look deeper into themselves, or they'll still be here listening now going, shit, this is something I need. This is something that I needed to hear today. And hopefully there are a few people who get that.
And I think a good thing to mention is that when you develop a practice like meditation and things like that, don't get me wrong, they are very good and they're vital for my well-being. But when we go through dark times, they are usually the first ones to go. And what happens is the problem just gets exacerbated. So if you're feeling sad, instead of going exercising or keeping your meditation, you just abandon everything. And those are the things that should be the foundation of that time. So if you're feeling sad and dark, maybe you should meditate for longer. Maybe you should go and exercise and go for a walk and focus more on the mental side of things, instead of to try and get that instant gratification through food, alcohol, drugs, or relationship, sex, anything you use as that kind of like source of gratification, or a way to feel good about yourself or about life. So I think keeping yourself, as Jack said, and you, Xander, accountable, and recognizing that if you're in a dark place, then make sure that you realize the importance of the practice you have developed, and don't just abandon them. Try to keep them as part of your routine, no matter what, because you've definitely come out of the dark place sooner and better, most likely. And I
Yeah.
think we're all guilty of that. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that. During my dark periods, the first thing that went away from me was meditation, and I'm not proud to say that, but when you are dark, sometimes you just cannot stand that feeling, and you just try to look for things to block that. But in hindsight, that's one thing that I am keeping myself accountable now, is I will make sure to meditate at least half an hour every day. And no matter what, no matter how dark life is, no matter how many challenges I have, that's one thing that I cannot abandon, because if I could, like, let's get something here. So if you offered someone £1,000 for that person to sit down and not think about anything, they will take that in a heartbeat. Uh, and meditation can have a similar impact. The way it improves your life, it may not give you that amount of money, but it will definitely make you happier and deal with issues in a more healthy and positive manner. So I think finding that practice, that's something that makes you feel good about yourself, about the world, gives you a positive outlook in life. And that can be music, can be reading, it can be yoga, it can be meditation. Everyone has their practice and has that place where they feel connected to themselves, to the world, where they feel good. It may be hanging out with your dog. So people have different ways and approaches to finding that connection with themselves and with the world. And I think that's important. I think people should never abandon that during that period where they go dark, where they don't see a way out, where they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So
Mm.
yeah, that was just something I wanted to mention, because I think we're speaking as if, yes, meditation is important and it's something that we do, but it's not always that easy to keep yourself accountable. But coming from us and seeing how dark we got by not doing it, that's a perspective we give to people by telling them, look, in case you do get to that place, make sure that that's something you don't abandon, because it will make things likely worse and more difficult for you.
I think it's important to say though, like in an ideal world, yes, have tools, have tactics, have behaviors in place that stop you from doing that. But like you've said, it can happen. It happens to the best of
It happens.
us. It does fall off. Just in the kind of name of full transparency, I recently said this to you, Philippe, that I had, a dark couple of weeks, and it took me some time to work out what it was and what it was that was kind of causing those issues and causing those feelings in me. And actually, in that time, we didn't speak. And I actually know deep down that chatting that out with you and having that conversation and having that phone call would have helped. But there's something internally that stops you from doing that when you're in that headspace and when you're in that zone. And it's the same thing that stops people from reaching out when they're experiencing bad mental health episodes, or a myriad of other things as well. And I think it's important to note that it does happen.
Oh, it
And
does.
the important thing is that though you get right back on the horse. It's not that the top people all around the world in their respective industries don't fuck up. They do. But
They
when they
do.
fuck up, they get back up
They get
at
back,
some point. And you don't let a bad day, you don't let a bad week, you don't let a bad month turn into a bad life. That
No,
is so
that's it.
important.
Yeah.
The key in what Felipe said for me is practice. It is a practice. It's not a I meditate perfection or I meditate success. I meditate practice. Practice, as we all know from being past sports people, is where mistakes are made and we iron out those things. And I did a post on this a couple of days ago, but the thing about practice is that mistakes will be made. It's not about being perfect or about being a failure. It's about doing something, and every time you do it, you get a little bit better. And when you meditate for the first time, you won't be able to clear your head of thoughts. It'll be like, clear your head of thoughts. You'll be thinking, how the fuck do I do that? Thanks very much. But what's important is that the next time you jump on, you get a little bit more clarity. Then you get a little bit more clarity again. And as you've both said, the important thing fundamentally is that over time things get better, that you pay a little bit more attention, that you dig a little bit deeper, that you approach slowly those issues that you really didn't want to approach. But again, in practice, meaning to fail or succeed, really, but to get better overall, that has to be the fundamental thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's important as well to acknowledge that all these things we speak about, even though, as we said at the start, they might come across as like a bit cliche or like, oh, I've heard it before or whatever, things become cliche for a reason. There's a reason that you hear the same thing over and over from many, many different people. There's a reason that something like, again, to say it, meditation has stuck around for thousands of years in Eastern philosophy. Like, that stands the test of time. Something like a detox tea is not still going to be around in 4,000 years, but something that stood the test of time for so many generations and is proven to work has become cliche for a reason. It's because people continue to do it. And so something one of my friends says that I absolutely love, and I know you'll like Philippe as well, is that he gives himself over to his practice every day.
Yeah.
It's not about always being super motivated to, or always just being this really positive person that loves to do all those things. He says, I know it's the right thing to do for me. I give myself over to my practice and I know good things come of that. And so what are those things that you can have in your life that you know are going to be good to do for you? Just like brushing your teeth. No one skips brushing their teeth twice a day because they know they don't want the bad outcomes. What are those things that you can do for your mental hygiene? What are those things you can do for your sleep hygiene, your training, those things that you know you just have to do day in, day out, whether you're super motivated or not? You don't wake up buzzing to brush your teeth, right? But what are those things? But you're not going to skip it. And so if one morning you don't wake up buzzing to meditate, still don't skip it. Do those things that you know are going to give you the long-term results. And again, have that self-love for yourself to know that you should do the things that are going to work well for you in the future rather than dipping out when things get tough in the short term.
Yeah, I think sorry, Xander, if you
No, I was going to say that I think that ties us perfectly into the kind of question that we would ask near the end of a podcast anyway. And Philippe, this will be one for you, of course. But if we're talking now about the things that we are implementing for good health and maybe things that may not be so good for our health, in your kind of opinion at the moment, are there any things that you're trying to implement that are especially good for you? Or are they things you already do that you wish to maintain? And are there any things that you think that are maybe a bit of a detriment to you and you would like to stop doing, or maybe something recently that you've stopped doing?
As I said, meditation has been vital for my mental well-being. Reading as well. I feel like reading has given me good perspective in how to carry myself in the world. In some ways, I like to just surrender to like what life gives to me. I put my all. I just surrender to whatever life gives back to me, and I think I've been trying to implement that more and more in my life, which is to find total freedom, to just be free of all concepts and all sort of like conditionings that society places on us. And I've been meditating and trying to kind of let sort of like way of life where people get caught up about things like what the other person thinks about me, or how I should be speaking, how I should act. I think that will come naturally by you meditating, trying to become a better human, reading, uh, getting that self knowledge about yourself. It's the, I think it's the most important thing. You learning about what makes you tick, the sort of thing that makes you happy, the thing that makes you react to something in a negative way, what sorts of behavior people do that make you act in a bad manner, that make you treat people in a bad manner. And I think being introspective is one of the things that I've been doing a lot, meditating, reading. I've been listening a lot to podcasts and exercising. I think those are great things. And as well as that, I cannot emphasize enough having a good few people that you trust and that you feel that you can talk to. I think having friends, having, for instance, a partner that I love next to me that is willing to communicate, is willing to talk about issues. Things are not always easy in relationships, and everyone knows that. But having someone that's willing to do that for you, or having someone that you can count on, that can be there for you when you need to talk, or that you are there for them when they need, or for instance, Jack, when I need to chat about something that maybe I don't want to upset my partner, maybe I want to chat with him, with a friend, with a male friend, or whatever, or having that bro, or having that female friend in the case of girls, that can listen to you without judging what you're going through. Sometimes what we need is just a ear, someone that listens, doesn't judge, perhaps provides you with a different view in life, a different perspective, and it just brings you clarity, and it takes you out of the dark place, and it puts you back into the good road that takes you to happiness. Uh, being happy with yourself, with your life, I think is the most important thing. Whether you have money, whether you don't have money, um, I think it's important to be happy with who you are and accept. And if you make mistakes and you fuck up, forgive yourself, because we're gonna make mistakes. Life is not perfect. I'm not perfect. I fuck up plenty of times, more times than I can count. And you just gotta own that mistake. You apologize, you forgive yourself, and you carry on. And you tackle the next challenge, and that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, Philippe. We really do appreciate it, and hopefully speak to you again soon.
Yes, thank you very much, Sander. Thank you, Jack.